The Rey Rivera mystery, the man who fell through the roof on the evening of May the 16th, 2006. Rey Rivera suddenly received a phone call. Whatever he heard made him rush out of his Baltimore home. He left in a hurry, drove away, and disappeared. 8 days later, his body was found in one of the strangest locations imaginable, inside the historic Belvedere Hotel. But Rey hadn't simply been found in a hotel room. His body had crashed through the roof of an unused conference room, and nobody could explain how he got there. This is the mystery of Rey Rivera. Rey was 32 years old. He was a writer, filmmaker, husband, and former editor who had moved to Baltimore with his wife, Allison. Friends described him as ambitious and creative. On May 16th, Rey was at home when he received a phone call. According to Allison, Rey suddenly reacted and rushed out. He left his computer and lights on. He got into his car, briefly returned home, and then left again. That was the last time his wife would see him alive. The following day, Allison reported him missing. Family and friends immediately began searching. But there was almost nothing to go on. No clear destination, no obvious explanation, and no witnesses who could say where Rey had gone. Then investigators discovered something important. His SUV had been parked near the Belvedere Hotel in downtown Baltimore. The parking ticket showed that the vehicle had been there since the night Rey disappeared. That changed everything. Rey's friends began searching around the hotel. On May 24th, 3 of his co-workers went into a parking structure beside the Belvedere. From above, they noticed something strange on one of the hotel's lower roofs. There were Rey's flip-flops, his cell phone, his glasses, and beside them, a massive hole in the roof. Police were called. When investigators entered the room directly beneath the hole, they discovered Rey's badly decomposed body. He had apparently fallen from a great height and crashed through the roof. But immediately, questions began piling up. Where exactly had Rey fallen from? And how had he reached that point? The Belvedere's main building was 14 stories high. One theory was that Rey had jumped from the main roof. But there was a problem. The hole was not directly beneath the obvious edge of the roof. There was a significant horizontal distance involved. Investigators had to consider whether Rey could realistically have reached the hole from the roof. And then there was the condition of the objects found near the impact. His phone was still there. His glasses were there. And although Rey had suffered catastrophic injuries, those objects were surprisingly intact. One of his flip-flops was broken, while the other was nearby. There were also questions surrounding marks found on the footwear. To some investigators, the scene didn't look straightforward. To Rey's family, it looked even more suspicious. But perhaps the strangest part of the case wasn't the roof. It was something found back at Rey's house. His wife discovered a strange note taped behind his computer. It was a single sheet of paper filled with references to movies, famous people, books, music, and mysterious phrases. It began with the words, brothers and sisters. It also contained a phrase associated with Freemasonry. Whom virtue unites, death will not separate. The note mentioned people including Stanley Kubrick and Christopher Reeve. It referenced movies such as The Matrix, The Game, Eyes Wide Shut, and National Treasure. It even contained references to people Rey personally knew. At first glance, it looked almost like a coded message. But there was another possibility. Maybe it was simply the bizarre stream of consciousness of a creative writer. Rey's family believed the note was not a suicide message. And importantly, the FBI reportedly concluded that it was not a suicide note. So what was it? That question has never been fully answered. Then investigators looked more closely at Rey's final movements. Why had he suddenly rushed out of his home? Who had called him? And why did he drive to the Belvedere? His final phone call became especially interesting because records connected his last incoming call to the switchboard of Agora Publishing, the company where Rey worked. But the identity of the person who actually called him was never established. That opened another door. Could something connected to his work have caused Rey to leave his home that night? His wife and family eventually questioned whether his death could have been connected to his workplace. But there has never been proof that anyone from the company was responsible. And that distinction matters, because over the years, the case has produced countless theories. Some suggest suicide. Others believe Rey was murdered. Some have proposed that he accidentally fell, and others have imagined far more elaborate scenarios. But none has been conclusively proven. Even the physical evidence created problems. If Ray jumped from the main roof, investigators had to explain how he reached the exact location where his body was found. If he didn't jump from there, where did he fall from? And if someone else was responsible, how did they get him onto the roof and make the scene look like a fall? There was another unsettling detail. The roof area that might have answered some of these questions did not provide a simple explanation, and investigators found no clear witness who could place Ray inside the hotel that night. The case became a puzzle where almost every answer created another question. Eventually, police treated Ray's death as a suicide, but the medical examiner did not give the family the certainty they wanted. His official manner of death was ultimately classified as undetermined. That means authorities could not establish whether Ray died by suicide, accident, or homicide. Years passed. Ray's family continued searching for answers. Then in 2020, his story reached a new generation when the case became the subject of the first episode of Netflix's reboot of Unsolved Mysteries. The renewed attention brought new theories and public interest, but it did not solve the central mystery. Because more than a decade after Rey Rivera disappeared, we still don't know exactly what happened during the final hours of his life. We don't know who called him. We don't know why he rushed out of his home. We don't know why he went to the Belvedere. We don't know exactly where he fell from. And we don't know why the evidence at the scene seems so difficult to reconcile. Maybe Ray took his own life. Maybe his death was a tragic accident, or maybe someone else was involved. But after all these years, there is still no definitive answer. And perhaps that's what makes the Rey Rivera case so haunting. A man disappeared after receiving a mysterious phone call. His car was found beside an old hotel. His body was discovered beneath a hole in the roof. His glasses and phone were left behind. And hidden behind his computer was a strange note that seemed to raise more questions than it answered. Rey Rivera left behind a wife, a family, friends, and a mystery that remains unsolved. Because sometimes the strangest part of a mystery isn't what we know. It's what we can never prove. And in Rey Rivera's case, there are still far too many unanswered questions.